April 1982, these respectable, worthy professors from France have taken the trouble of coming over to me and to have a talk about Islam. It is very kind of them. I think it would be better if you themselves introduce what they are. Yes, sir. Your name and
my name? I am Jib Tulanu, professor of Arabic and the Arabic language and civilization in Aix-en-Provence in France. And I would like to ask Allama Ghulam Ahmad Parwez about what he means, but I would like to speak Arabic a little because I prefer to speak Arabic. Yes, yes.
the first thing is just to have your names and
Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Jean-Paul Charnet, professeur de l'Université of Paris, Sorbonne et Centre national de la recherche scientifique à Paris.
Jean-Paul Gaffin, I'm a research scholar at the National Scientific Research Center in France and at present visiting professor at Princeton University, USA.
Jean-François Rix, fellow researcher at the Center for Art Studies on Contemporary Middle East in Aix-en-Provence.
Eugene Schaeffer, professor in law at Paris University and director of the Institute of Legal Science and Development in Paris.
عبد المجيد تركي، أستاذ وباحث بباريس جامعة السوربون والمركز الوطني للبحث العلمي.
So how did they come to know about me? That's all right. So I need not have my introduction. I am a humble student of Quran. I have devoted my life for this purpose. There is a missionary organization of mine. The purpose is only to spread the teachings and the thinking of the Quran, what I give. That's all what I going to say. Now, it will be some questions you will be prepared to put, and I'll give the answers there too.
First of all, on behalf of the group,
yes.
would you like to control the life of your grandson?
I see. It's very kind of you. It was a great shock to me, no doubt. A young boy, produced everything, and suddenly he died. Only 3 months back. So kind of you to have condoled the life back then. Thank you so much. Let us pray to God for His help. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Yes. Now, the question.
هل أستطيع أن ألقي على جنابكم سؤالا بالعربية؟ أتكلم بالعربية ممكن؟ حضرة العالم الجليل، هل نستطيع أن نلقي على جنابكم هذا السؤال؟ هل هناك صعوبات تعترض سبيل الباكستاني المسلم في حياته المعاصرة؟
Can anybody explain in English what I have understood is something else, but it will be better if you put it.
Y a-t-il I could translate this into English, is some difficult tale for the Islamic for the Pakistani citizens, who is of course a Muslim, and he is living Islamic life in Pakistan today. What are the difficulties of life for Muslims?
Thanks. The gist of the first question put to me, as I have been able to understand, and this gentleman has translated it, is that what is the difficulty for a Muslim citizen of Pakistan to live his life according to Islam? That's it. The first thing is to define and understand what is meant by Islam and Islamic life. That is the foremost question. If that is settled or understood, then it will be possible to proceed further to see whether the Muslim citizens of Pakistan are leading the life according to Islam or not. And if not, what are the difficulties and how those difficulties can be removed. So the first and the foremost and the fundamental question is, what is meant by Islam? And when we say it is Islamic or it is un-Islamic, what is the criterion for that? What is the standard to just to say one thing it is Islamic and the other is non-Islamic? There must be a line of demarcation between the two. So that is the first thing. Am I correct? That must be understood first. What is Islam and what is Islamic life? The first thing is that generally we take Islam as a religion, one of the religions of the world. Not only non-Muslims, even Muslims also. They say with some pride that it is the best religion of the world. That's all what the Muslims are. But still they treat it as a religion. They also consider it as a religion. Generally, I am telling you. But Islam is not a religion. That is the first and the foremost thing where I deviate from others, or where Quran deviates from the general conception of religion or Islam as a religion. Islam is not a religion. Perhaps you will be surprised to hear the title of my book in English, and that is the only book I have written in English. The title is Islam, a challenge to religion. Not only that it is not a religion, it is a challenge to religion. A religion is some sort of subjective experience or some sort of man's relation with God, which is an abstract term. Everybody can satisfy himself saying that I have got some relations with God. And then there are some forms of worship or prayer or something like that. But the ultimate object is to have some relations with God, or to attain the individual salvation of man, or have some subjective feelings, some emotions. That is religion. According to this definition, accepting Islam, all religions are religions, no doubt. But Islam is to conduct the entire affairs of human life, individual as well as collective, according to the directives given by God and contained in His holy book. Entire affairs of the human life, collective as well as individual, mundane as well as those relating to his health or his personality, his physical body, his physical life, as well as his own self. Individual as well as collective. And collective is necessary. The life of an individual. An individual can lead his life according to Islam only in his collective society. So, this society or the collective life, you may call it a state in the present terminology, that is essential factor for an individual to live life according to Islam. Now, what is this state, what I said, collective life or state? What is this state? Islam, the purpose of Islam is, as I have said, to conduct the life of human affairs, or to conduct human affairs according to the directives given by God. A state is an agency to enforce the directives, principles, permanent values as given by God. Only an agency to enforce these laws. These laws or principles cannot be made even by the state, much less by any individual. The state has only to enforce these laws, enforce these principles. But Islam is, as we say, it an eternal, I won't say religion again. The terminology for that is deen, not religion. There is no parallel word in any language, much less in English or in Urdu even, or even in Arabic. No parallel to deen. It is a very special, significant term for that one, deen. Entire system of human life, both collective and private. So the state is an agency to enforce the directives, principles, permanent values, injunctions, call them whatever they are, to enforce the deen in the human affairs in this world. Now Quran is, or Islam is, as you say, the religion, or deen as I say, put it, it is everlasting. We believe it to be the final and everlasting. How is it possible for a system of life which gives some sort of principles or injunctions that they are immutable or everlasting? Human life is changing. The requirements of the time, they also do change. And when deen is to conduct the entire attitude, entire human life, affairs of human life, according to those directives, it means these affairs, they will change from time to time. And those directives and principles, we say that they are unchangeable, immutable. How would it become workable? Quran lays down the boundary lines of these principles and permanent values, barring a very few injunctions which have been given specifically. There are only hududullah, what we call, limits, boundary lines. These limits and boundary lines, they are unchangeable, immutable. Within those boundary lines, the Islamic State or the Islamic Ummah, as we call it, they are free to frame their own subsidiary laws or bylaws or the ways and means to enforce these immutable laws given by God. So they are free within this, within these boundary lines to frame their own laws and means to enforce them. They can't make these laws or boundary lines. They can't transgress these things. Even the state, as I say, much less an individual, has any authority to frame these principles or to change them, much less to transgress them. They must remain as they are, and they will remain as they are. But the requirements of the time will change. According to these change requirements, the subsidiary laws made by the Islamic State of a certain period, they can be changed by subsequent Islamic laws. But only these subsidiary laws made by man, not those made by God. No individual has any authority to make any change in the laws given by the God. Even the Rasulullah had no authority to do so. This is what Quran says. He couldn't change these, much less all other human beings. So this is in a nutshell what Islam means. A society, the collected life of human beings, those who believe in this, the state, to conduct the entire affairs of human life, individual as well as collective, according to the directives and principles or permanent values, or we say according to the boundary lines. Within those boundary lines, they are free to do everything. And that will be done by the consultation of the entire millet, entire ummah or entire nation. Consultative. In this respect, if we want to term it in the present terminology, it will be some sort of controlled democracy, but controlled by God. By God we mean controlled by the book of God. Democracy, which means consultation among the people who believe in this. So to that extent it will be democratic, but even not only the majority of these people, even the entire nation or entire ummah, they haven't got the authority to make any change in the boundary lines laid down by the God. They can work only within the boundary lines prescribed by God, and this is the control over them. There is no question of making these principles or boundary lines by any individual, collective, as well as the entire nation even. So this is the difference between the conduct of the state of the other nations, though they may be the nations who believe in some religion. But this speciality is only of Islam, that they have got those principles or those, I would say, boundary lines again in the book of God, which we believe to be revealed to Prophet Muhammad. He was the first to establish such a state in which these principles were enforced by him, and thereafter it has to continue. So, if an individual wants to live an Islamic life, it can be done only in an Islamic state. An Islamic state means the state who takes upon itself the responsibility of enforcing these laws of God according to the requirements of its time. Individual or in the entire state or even the entire nation, millet, ummah as we call them, they haven't got the authority to make any change in these laws. So this is their freedom, and that is their responsibility, which they can't change. The limits, they are there to remain forever immutable. They can't change them. That is the control. And within those limits, they are free by mutual consultation to make their own subsidiary laws, to enforce these laws of God, or to conduct the affairs of human beings within the boundaries prescribed by God. So that is Islam, and this is Islamic life. And an individual can live an Islamic life, I think I have made it clear, only in an atmosphere or in a state where the laws of God are enforced, which cover the entire life, individual as well as collective, of all the citizens of that state. Clear? Or any question?
If you permit, I would have two questions. One is very maybe theological, and the other one is more general. I begin by the first, which is more theological. You say, of course, and we agree, we know Quran, the Holy Quran, contains many and many general principles. Yes. But we have also in Quran some verses, especially, for example, in the matter of succession, of inheritance. These precise dispositions in Quran, are they or not general principles? It's my first question.
Perhaps the question, as I have been able to understand, is that in the Quran there are laws and principles and orders also, not only the principles. I have already stated that except few injunctions and orders given by God specifically, they are few, they are also in the Quran. Others are all only limitations. And the injunctions, as I have said, they are very few injunctions. In other affairs, the entire freedom has been given to the nation, remaining within those boundary lines, to frame their own subsidiary laws. But as far as the injunctions given by God in the Quran are concerned, they are also immutable, unchangeable. But to enforce them, that will require also what the requirements of the time, what the circumstances prevalent. The circumstances or the atmosphere, that must also be in consonance with what the Quranic boundaries or the Quranic injunctions they mean. So they will be introduced, they will be enforced as they are in the Quran, subject to the I would say, the atmosphere in which those laws are to be enforced. But they will remain unchanged, no doubt. But they are very few. Generally, they belong to the family life of the Quran, of the human beings. So, this is why they call them as personal laws. There is no such thing as personal when we say that will also be regulated according to the directive given by God. There is no personal choice in that respect, but they belong to the realm of personal laws, as say family life. Most of these injunctions given by God or in the Quran relate to the family life of the man, or some punishments as they lay down. But as I have said, first we have to make the entire atmosphere of that country or nation Islamic, in which the Islamic values should prevail. And in that atmosphere, we will be able to enforce those laws and injunctions given by God.
My second question is more general. In the modern world, Islamic world is now living a great revival, politically speaking, economically speaking, and ideologically speaking. And we are very happy to meet you because your thought is one of the main trends of the modern Islamic thought. So, but there are many, as you know, other main trends in the Islamic philosophy and theology now. Could say to us some your opinions about the main trends of Islamic thought? And of course, we can't forget the interpretations of Colonel Gaddafi, the interpretations of Ayatollah Khomeini. You see, would be possible.
That is a misunderstanding generally prevailing, that Quranic verses or the Quranic directives, they are capable of giving various interpretations. I think such a book is not worth of a man, much less the book of God. It can give various interpretations to various individuals. How can we call it a directive, common and everlasting? That is wrong. They are very clear, not open to these human interpretations. There is the way to understand those things, no doubt, and that has also been laid down in the Quran. According to that, no verse of the Quran is capable of giving different interpretations to different ones. Either they are their own personal interpretations, or generally, at present, Islam does not prevail in any country of these Muslims. It is only the religion. So either those interpretation is subject to what they think religiously, or their personal interpretation. If they stick to the Quran and Quran alone, then it does not give different interpretations. I have spent about 50 years on this book, entirely on this book. For the first half of my life, I studied this according to conventional ideas. That also I did. And thereafter, when from the Quran itself I understood that that is not the way. The way is to come to the Quran entirely. The Quran has themselves says that it is put in the Arabic, Lisanul Arabiyyun Mubin. So it is Arabi and Mubin. So you can well understand. Now when the language itself, the book says, even the word Arabic means very clear language, and then Arabiyyun Mubin. Bayyana linnas, Quran says, God himself has made it very clear for mankind. It says that the proof of its being from God is أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. If there is any difference of meaning between the verses of the Quran, it means it is not from God. The proof of its being from God is that you won't find any difference in these. So if you say that in the interpretation of these verses there can be so many differences, then it lies to it. That can't be the book of God according to the criterion laid down by God himself. It says that there can't be any contradiction. Even in one verse, if you find the contradiction, then it means that this claim of the Quran, that it is from God, that goes through. So that is wrong to say. It is a general wrong conception, or I would say the opinion prevailing in these days. Let's say, yes, we come to Quran, also that Quran gives various interpretations to various people. What is the use of such a book, I think? Even if the laws made by man are such that every law gives various interpretations to everybody, even that law is not capable of being followed, much less the laws as we believe them to be from God. So that can't be the thing. It is not the thing there. They don't stick to Quran itself. I say either they mix their own opinions with it, or authorities outside the Quran, which they call them the traditions or the fiqh, as you all understand them. So if, or the tafsir, the commentaries written by the various scholars, or whoever they are, they don't constitute any authority. Even what I say is not an authority. I must quote authority from God in support of what I say, even in respect of this thing, that it is open to various interpretations. I have quoted the verse of the Quran that it says that the proof of my being from God is that you won't find any contradiction in it. So it and they were collected without any written material before, only by personal verbal evidence given by the people. 200 years after the Prophet, they collected it. Imam Bukhari, the collector of Majmu'ah Bukhari, considered to be the most authenticated, he says that about 6 lakhs these traditions came to him, were narrated to him. He considered over them. He discarded out of them about 5,97,000 and accepted only 3,000 of them. What was the criterion for him to reject those and to accept these? Only his opinion. So what we call, or what they call now, the sunnat of the Prophet or the tradition of the hadith of the Prophet is nothing but some sort of traditions related to Imam Bukhari by verbal people, and then according to his own choice accepted by him. So that is the position of these men. And even they don't call them as the traditions of the Ahadith Rasulullah. They call them Aqwal Mansoob ila Rasul. This is the authority of that one. And secondly, even Rasulullah has enforced the principles and laws of Quran according to the requirements of his own time, according to the conditions prevalent at that time in that society. If they were to remain permanent and everlasting and unchanging for the whole of the life, for the entire mankind, everlasting till the last day, they should have been given in the Quran. When the Quran says that whatever is required for the mankind, we have given it here. Muhammadan alayhi. So, it is not that somehow or other God has, as it is laid down in some tradition, that God has forgotten to lay down these things in His book, and then they were laid down by the messenger of the God, and even Rasulullah did not have them written, did not have them collected, didn't have them compiled. Even the Khulafai Rashidin, they never did it, and they were done for the first time 200 years thereafter. So they can't be permanent, unchangeable authority for Islam. The authority unchangeable will be Quran, and all other things out of the Quran we will examine in the light of the Quran. Out of them, whatever is according to in conformity with the Quranic injunctions or principles, we can say that they can be of Rasulullah, and then we will have to see whether they can be enforced as they are according to the conditions prevailing today. If not, Ummah can make it change. Islamic state, what I have said, not any state, not the state of the Muslims, not Musliman government, but Islamic government, which means the government which has taken upon itself the responsibility of conducting every affair of human life according to Quran. That is Islamic state. The Islamic state, with the mutual consultation of the Ummah, can change those laws, can make their own laws, can have addition to them. So this is the position of Ahadith or Sunnah according to what I have been able to understand from Quran. Imam, you will have a cup of tea in the meantime. Yes.
we have been attending a colloquium, and during this colloquium a lot of our Pakistani colleagues had been mentioning the word Islamization, and probably as we were dealing with law, the word Islamization was pronounced much more often than the word law or right or anything else. So we are wondering, what does this word mean in Pakistan today, according to all the problems which do arise when it is mentioned, that is this done by the state, is this done by scholars, is this done by Allama or by other groups in the community, or is this done by the whole community itself? The second question would be related to something else, which is that we notice, or some Western scholars, and I know they are Western, I've been noticing that among the third world countries, almost all the Islamic countries belong to this kind of group. And they have interpreted this kind of weaknesses by saying that it might be linked with the practice of Islam or with Islam as you mentioned, deen, but they just mention it as a religion. And we all know that this is not true at all, but we would like to know how Islam could just be used to change the wheel and to modify the whole situation by bringing probably all these nation states, Islamic nation states, together again, and by changing the situation and modifying the economic weakness of the Islamic world today.
As I have explained before, I don't want to say this as an authority. I am no authority. I am a humble student of Quran. And this misunderstanding is lurking, as I have said, both amongst these Muslims and non-Muslims. When we say that we are Islamizing, we are endorsing Islamic order, and that these Islamic states are doing all these things. There is no Islamic state today. They are the states of the Muslims. There is a fundamental difference between a Muslim of the today and an Islamic individual, or an Islamic Muslim, or we call Quran calls movement. Basic difference. All these states are governed by these Muslims. These are other Muslim states, not Islamic states. The fundamental thing to be an Islamic is, I address to you respectfully, Man lam yakum bima anzalallah fa ulaika humul kafirun. Clear wording. Whoever does not judge or decide according to Quran is a non-Muslim. Clear word of the Quran. Can it have, my learned gentlemen, two interpretations? Man lam yahkum bima anzalallah fa ulaika humul kafirun.
Celui qui ne vit pas selon la révélation de Dieu est un impie. C'est parti des impies.
So this is the basic line of demarcation, indication, distinction between a Muslim and a non-Muslim. Before applying it to individual life, there can be some deviations in individual life. But when you apply it to a state, the state is in authority to decide the affairs of others. And if this fundamental rule is accepted by the state and acted upon according to it, then it becomes an Islamic state. Islamization would mean that in the Muslim countries, or in the Muslim world, or in Muslims' life, whatever is against the Quran, that must be changed and made according to Quran. This would mean Islamization. Did you hear this thing in any of these colloquiums or discussions or these worthy scholars, in those who were giving interpretation? This thing what I have said. This is not what I have said. This is what Quran has said. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. This will decide how we can Islamize our present life, individual both as well, collective as well as of the state. This will be Islamization. But if it means that some acting according to certain rawayat, others acting according to certain jurists, as we call it, fiqh, laws framed by certain jurists about 1,000 years back to suit the conditions of their own time. They couldn't envisage the conditions prevailing 1,000 years ahead. They could make laws only according to the conditions prevailing in their time. That is what fiqh means. That is what Islamic jurisprudence, as they call it, is not Islamic. Laws framed by certain lawyers, lawgivers, jurists, if those laws are according to ma anzalallah, that will be acceptable. Even those laws we will have to examine in the present conditions of our time. They must suit this thing, because they were laws or the subsidiary laws or bylaws framed by certain persons, man-made laws. So, what Islamization nowadays generally means is that the life of the Muslims should be made in accordance with the laws given by the fiqh. About 1,000 years back, framed by certain persons, not by God. This is what Islamization means. How can you call it Islamization? This is why I had to start with, I have said that first we must decide what Islam is. And when we say it is Islamic, it is non-Islamic, what is the standard or criterion for that one is. This must be settled and decided first. Have you, excuse me, don't want, as I have said, to have any credit on my part. What I say is, have you heard this thing anywhere throughout these Muslim countries? That Islamization means to conform the life of the individuals and collective and the state according to what God has revealed in Quran. That's all. Nowhere you will see that. And that is what Quran says. To say that no, this is according to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, it is not Islamic, and this is according to Imam Abu Hanifa, this is Islamic. Who has given you the authority to accept this thing as Islamic authority? Imam Ahmad, Imam Hanbal, yes, with all the respect due to them, they were after all men. These are man-made laws. And made according to the circumstances prevailing those days. How they can have any check on my freedom? What authority another man has? God has said, again I would address to the Arabic understanding gentlemen amongst you, مَا كَانَ لِبَشَرٍ أَن يُؤْتِيَهُ اللَّهُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحُكْمَ وَالنُّبُوَّةَ أَن يَقُولَ لِلنَّاسِ كُونُوا عِبَادًا لِي مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. It is not open to anybody, any individual. Even he may have got book or an administrative authority, hukum. وَالنُّبُوَّةَ, even the Nabi, he has no authority to say to other individuals to obey me, not to God. This is what Quran says. No other authority except God. Even Nabuwwat. Just think over it, my respected gentlemen. ما كان لبشر أن يؤتيه الله الكتاب والحكم والنبوة ثم يقول للناس كونوا عبادا لي من دون الله.
C'est un verset qui apparemment s'adressait aux chrétiens, c'est-à-dire il n'y a aucun homme, c'est-à-dire Dieu n'accorde jamais la prophétie, la sagesse à un homme pour qu'il puisse dire adorez-moi sa vie.
It includes even nubuwwat, much less ma kana li basharin, much less all other individuals. They are certainly below these Nabis. He says even the Nabi has not the authority to ask the people to obey his orders. He is only to get the orders of God obeyed by others. And in that respect he will say, Ana awwalul muslimin. I will be the first to obey these orders and then enforce these orders. This will be, my respected gentlemen, Islamization. Not to conform the life or the laws prevalent at present according to some jurists of 1,000 years back. No. He has his own time. There may be Shariat in his own time. And even those times were times of monarchy. Have a side period. Monarchy itself is against God, against Quran. How can be a monarchy can be Islamic? And how can be the laws framed in an un-Islamic state be Islamic and Islamic for all times to come? And this is what these seminars and these discussions and these conferences, this is what they say. This law is not according to Islam. Then how should we make it? Imam Abu Hanifa has said something, Imam Hanbal has said something, it should be made in confirmation with that one. Then it will become Islamic. Got it? This is because they have not laid down first the standard or the criterion for calling a thing Islamic or un-Islamic. What is Islamic? That must be decided first. And all these discussions you will see, they will all go to the... They will have to sit down and then speak. That whatever amongst the prevalent laws or our even customs, whatever is against Quran, it is un-Islamic. It must be made in confirmation with the Quran, then it will become Islamic. And this will be the process of Islamization. That's all.
In a lot of Islamic countries, of Muslim countries, Western countries, a very big number of men that who pretend for themselves the right to say what must be Islamization. And we have heard here a number of communications, of papers about this subject. And for example, in the matter of about the subject of riba, what must be modern banking, what must be modern society on the plane of economic life, what must be Islamic society about the rights of women. And there is a lot of subjects about which those men who pretend to have rights, to have authority, in order to say what is real Quranic life, speak and teach and give instructions and try to enforce them through state organization, of course, or official organization. You mean that I mean that state has an official plane of on which it can exercise its power, and when it is a so-called Islamic power, it is very important for any whatever country.
You are correct that the state is the only authority to Islamize. And that is why we demanded and had this Pakistan. That was the basic need of ours, and that was the only why we demanded this thing, to have our own free state, because according to Quran, we can't act according to Islam in any other state. Muslims have their own free land to make it an Islamic state. An Islamic state would mean the agency to introduce or to enforce Quranic laws. Very simple. All these people discussing everything about riba and rajam and the banking system and other things, lot of things there are to discuss. Yes, we can discuss. But what is the basic authority to decide? First settle that question. Otherwise you may go on with your conferences, with your seminars, with your discussions, with your everything else, and you haven't got any authority. If you take any case to the court here in Pakistan or in any way in any country, the discussion will be according to a particular law. The law must be there. It must be accepted by both these parties as well as by lawyers. They will discuss all these things, the lawyers, but according to the law. The court will ask them to refer to the law which you say, to quote the law according to which you are talking. And even the court will pronounce its decision according to certain law. If that is not decided, that what that law will be according to which this case will be decided, what use it will have to discuss this case for 100 years? Will it produce any result? If first it is not decided that this case will be decided according to this law of this state, accepted by all. On simple cases we observe this procedure, but in matters, in so important matters like Islam, we don't decide these things first. That what is that book of law according to which all these cases will be decided which we are discussing. Ultimately, how the decision will be taken. These are not the personal decisions. Even the Nabi had not the authority to decide according to his own opinion. Nobody in the world has that authority. Only God has that authority. God is an abstract identity. That authority he exercises through his book. And it is only the book of law which represents the state of the authority or the authority. And this is what God has done. He says that I am the authority, but I won't come down to the earth to decide your case personally. I have given this book of law. This is my book. These are my laws. Every decision made according to these laws will be decision taken by these. We obey God only through his book. As we obey the government of Pakistan through the laws prevalent in Pakistan, introduced and forced by the state. This is the normal procedure. The book of law in Islam is Quran. Decide according to that, it will be Islamic. First lay down this thing, accept this thing. That is not done anywhere. They will talk about Bukhari and Muslim, they will talk about Hanafi and Shafi, they will talk about these other priests and all those things, Allama as they call it. None of them has the authority to decide ultimately what is Islamic and what is un-Islamic. Only the book of God has got that authority. Accept it and make it that authority. then go on discussing whatever you want to say, whatever opinion you want to express, but we can't deviate from that one. It should be within the boundaries given by the God. And then the ultimate decision should conform according to the book of God, as I said. That will be Islamic. One must ask anybody, whoever he may be, that whatever you are telling, quote the authority of God for that in support of what you say. That will be all. Nobody will do that one. You will go on talking about riba. Have you first decided that what is riba according to Quran? That will settle the whole affair. All other systems, the banking system, or Mazaraat and all these things, these are subsidiary questions. Oh, first we have to decide what is riba according to Quran. It is such a huge and important thing, riba. He has said that if you do not act according to it, then there is an ultimatum from God and His Messenger against you. We will wage war against you. Riba is such a thing. Have they decided first that what is riba according to Quran? Then we will say further on whether this banking or this muzariyat or this interest or this saving is Islamic or un-Islamic. If it is riba in the definition of the Quran, it is un-Islamic. Whatever the form is. If it conforms the definition given by God of riba, then that will be un-Islamic. If it goes, then we will have to decide that how the Islamic economic order can be imposed in the circumstances prevailing at present. That's the thing. They don't decide this basic fundamental thing. And they go, what is riba? Ask them first. Yes. Go on. Increase, addition. Whatever is in addition to your principal amount is riba. According to the very lexical meaning of the word, as we have said, Rabba Yarwa. Yes, sir. Whatever is zaid, whatever is in excess of your principal amount, that is riba, whatever the form. According to Quran, this is what we call unearned income in these days economically. You earn something by your labor. Quran says that لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. It is only, yes, you were talking about riba. As you have said, even the lexical meaning of that one is whatever is in excess of the principal amount. Quran says that this usage of riba was prevalent amongst the Arabs when Islam came. When Quran put an end to this one, it says that وَلَكُمْ رَئِيسٌ مِّنْ أَوْلَادِكُمْ. You can get back only the principal amount you have invested. وَلَا تَظْلَمُونَ وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ. This will neither be the zulm on you nor on the other part. You can have only the principal amount you have invested. Even in the affairs which had already been done with the Arabs, according to the custom and usage prevalent amongst them about riba, those were the affairs which they had done before that one. Quran introduced this injunction of his according to riba with retrospective effect, that even in regard to the affairs which you had done before, today you can have only the principal amount. and anything in excess of that which has accrued according to your previous custom and usage. Only the principal amount you can get. This is whatever is in addition to increase over the principal amount is riba by Rasul. This will be an ultimatum from the Islamic State against you. Ultimatum of war. Ultimatum of war against those people who don't not accept this definition of riba. So, my respected gentlemen, this is what I have been able to learn from the Quran. That first you define these things according to Quran. They will be the fundamentals, permanency, and then all the other affairs you should discuss in the light of what you have said in the Quran. The ways and means how to introduce these things, that you can do according to circumstances prevailing. But they even can't transgress the limits laid down by this. The limit is that you are entitled to get back only your principal amount. So then whether it is invested in a bank or in national savings or in Muzarabat as they call it, or then Muzarawat as they call it. No, this is the jurists. These are the juristic laws according to which they say that private sort of interest, as they say, is prohibited. On loan, if you invest money and then you get whatever you want to get it, that is all Islamic law. I think you can say that is according to the law of Intvi. That is according to Sathi law. Don't call it Islamic. Islamic is there in the Quran. This is what we are doing. So these laws are prevailing amongst all these monarchies which have come to us from centuries after centuries. They were there. These laws were even when we were under the subjugation of the British government in India. Even people living in these non-Muslim states, they can also have observed these laws, these laws of the Fiqh, what I call it. But to observe the laws of Quran and to live according to that, we have to ask for our own free country and free state. And this is what I have said, according to Quran, an Islamic state is that is the distinction between an Islamic and un-Islamic state. If the state affairs are not conducted according to the characters given in God, that is an Islamic state, even though the state may be governed by Muslims themselves. That differentiation we must keep in mind. Everything done by a Muslim is not Islamic. Islamic is that which is in conformity with the Quran. We talk about these states as Islamic states. A state is state governed by Muslims, not Islamic state. So, if we decide these fundamentals first, then no difficulty arises in deciding all these subsidiary things. That's it. We are only to consider that this is what Quran says Islamic. Now, in these circumstances prevailing at present, how we can act according to it? What we have to discuss. No doubt it will be done only in phases, because to start from the life, un-Islamic life which we are living today, everything is un-Islamic in Muslim countries. To start from it and to take it to that Islamic end or destination, I see. It will be required by grace. Gradually we will go there. But we must decide this thing first. The direction should be covered here. Every step of ours should go to that destination. That finally the entire life of the millet, ummah, individual as well as collective, of the state, as an individual, that must conform according to the directives given by God. That will be our destination, ultimate end. How to achieve that end? That will be by faith, gradually. And this is what we mean Islamization. Steps towards the end of Islam. That is what should be done today. Otherwise not. So you have said that first there should be some change in the psychology or the thinking of the people. This is what I say. This must be the change first brought about in Muslims. That Islamic means whatever is in conformity with the Quran. That must be the change first brought about. Even then, and then even you can proceed further by the process of Islamization. That is the change that is here. And that is called Iman. Iman is this change that I say. Yes, please.
Thank you. What is your opinion about ijtihad? Ijtihad on one hand in itself, ijtihad, and in the other hand, ijtihad in relation with the ruling power of the state.
It is quite clear. It is quite clear that in an Islamic state there are the boundary lines only what are unchangeable. Within those boundary lines, the millet by its own consultation can devise means and ways to enforce certain laws. We should not digress those limitations. We should not transgress those limitations. This discussion among these millet and the people, proper people, capable of discussing these things, this discussion will be ijtihad. There is no separate institution of ijtihad. There is no institution of ulama or separate priesthood in Islam. Nothing. Every final order will be issued by the state. Jaiz and najaiz, Islamic and un-Islamic, that won't be decided by individuals, even much less, even he may claim to be an Allama or he may claim to be a faqih or whatever it is. He would have no authority to say that this is Islamic, it is un-Islamic. It is only the state who will proclaim this thing. And how? Remaining within those limits, by mutual consultation, discussion, everything. This will be the ijtihad. And when a decision is raised, it will be proclaimed by the state. That will become the law of man. That will be Islamic law. And that is the ijtihad. If that system of state had continued after the first period of Islam, as we call it, Khulafai Rashidin, that would have been continuous ijtihad in the amongst Muslims, and not confined to any particular group of people, representatives of the millet, capable of discussing these things in the light of the Quran. They will get together, take the point at issue, discuss the various aspects of that one, and then reach some decision within the boundary lines given by the God, by Quran. And that decision will be proclaimed by the state as a law of the country. That's it. That will be ijtihad. Thank you, gentlemen. I am very glad that you have listened what I have said so seriously. This is what I have been able to understand from Quran. I have got my sight and studies everything which is conventional Quran says, the traditions, the ahadith and the fiqh and the philosophy and the commentaries, everything in this life of mine, because I have devoted my life to that. Now I study everything. I know everything what it is. But then I came to the conclusion what Quran says, that the authority is Quran, the book of God, and it is not open to contradictory interpretation. It is gives only one and one interpretation. That I have done. About 3 dozens of books I have written on the Quran. Even a lexicon. Not an Arab. Right. Quranic lexicon in 4 volumes, that I have published. Quranic encyclopedia or classified verses of the Quran according to subject wise in 3 big volumes, that I have done. Exposition of the verses of the Quran, not translation. Mind it, Lughatul Quran, in the Lughatul Quran in 4 volumes. It is in Urdu. It is meant for my own people. Everything is in Urdu. Even in English there is only one book of mine, Lughatul Quran, Tadweedul Quran. Yes. Yes. Then there is I say the Quran can't be translated in any language. This is what I don't say. It is Professor Gill has said, modern trend in Islam, that Quran is untranslatable in any language of the world. It has got its own language. So what I did was, I gave Mafhumul Quran, not Tarjuman Quran. What the Mafhum is, that I have given of the entire Quran in 30 parts. Then now I am on the commentary in the light of what I have said in my lexicon, in my Tabweedul Quran, in my Mafhumul Quran. 4 volumes of that have also been published. About 40 books, each books of the Quran, entire Quran, that I have done.
Could we ask you about the most important book you have published in English, in your opinion?
My book. It is important or unimportant. I have published only one book in English. In English only one. But I don't know what is important or not. And that is Wahidun. So yes, you can decide it. So I have, as I in my yes.
Not that we have 3 or 4 books in English.
No, they were simple texts I have written. The book is only Quran, Islam, a challenge to religion. It's a very revolutionary idea, and it really gave birth to some thinking people. That he says it is a religion to religion. I have explained it. That is a deen, it is not religion. So that is the only book, my friend, I have written in English. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you on behalf of all of us for the most enlightened answers to our somewhat awkward questions.
And I know that we all know that you're going very soon for Mecca and the pilgrimage, and we wish you a very good trip there and back. Thank you very much again.